Okay, I think we have most people with us, so we'll make a start. So hello again, a huge warm welcome to London Business School and to the restart of our sector series, which we started last year, and we looked into entrepreneurship, finance and tech and media. And we are really happy to be back this year to continue the series, starting with social impact today, but we'll also be looking at consulting, healthcare, luxury and retail, and other sectors as well as we move through the series. So please do stay with us and continue to register for any that are of interest to you. So my name is Charlotte and I'm the Senior Global Recruitment Manager at London Business School for the MBA programme, Masters in Finance, and our early career Masters programmes as well. So together with my team, we work with our prospective students in ensuring that you are very well researched on London Business School and on all of the programmes and career options our students head into. So we hope that you take lots away from today, especially if you are considering a career in the social impact space, or if it's of an interest to you and it's something that you would be really interested in getting involved in your time at London Business School. I'm delighted to be joined by Alyona today, who is Head of Diversified Careers and will be taking us through a presentation shortly, and also two of our current students. We have Colleen and Kavya, who are joining us from the MBA and the Masters in Management programmes. And I'll just hand over to each of them to do a brief introduction, starting with Colleen.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. So I'm Colleen Garrihy. I am in my second year of MBA. I'm the co-president of the Social Impact Club. Prior to LBS, I was a M&A consultant in the States, specifically within New York and LA. But I did start my career doing Teach for America in Miami, and that's kind of what kickstarted my interest in the social impact space. And luckily, this past summer, I was actually able to work for a digital mental health company, which was such an exciting experience I only got afforded because of my current involvement within the club.
Hi everyone, I'm Kavya. I'm a MIM 2021. So before joining LBS, I actually went to the University of Bristol where I studied biology. And then last year I worked as a commercial intern at Gales. And I've always been really interested in the social impact space. And that's why I joined the Social Impact Club. Nice to talk to you all.
Great, thank you so much. So today will look something like this. We're going to start with a presentation from Alyona, which will provide lots of insights into social impact career opportunities at London Business School and what our students can get involved in no matter which programme they are on. And then we will hand over to the Social Impact Club, to both Colleen and Kavya, who have just introduced themselves. We will have plenty of time for your questions today, so please do send them through on the Q&A box as and when you have them, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentations. But without further ado, I'll hand over to Alyona. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. It's lovely to have you all joining us today. And today we're going to obviously talk about what you can do when you come to LBS. Hopefully we'll get a chance to meet in person at some point, but it's just to give you an idea of things you can do and also how much help Career Centre at LBS can provide for you. We'll have a quick look at what we call employee engagement team, general social impact sector overview, what recruitment generally looks like, and then some of the things that you can do if you are genuinely interested in that space. Now, the Career Centre is there to basically help you in your career choice, and most people come to LBS to either enhance their career or to then pivot into something else, and we work with students individually to help them along the way. We provide one-to-one sessions for you to evaluate, and we do have coaches who specifically work with students on sort of general aspects of finding their strengths and also helping them with their CVs and cover letters. And then we'll also have sector insights, which is something that I would be involved in with sector leads across different areas. We provide workshops, resources, even peer leader sessions to help develop the skills that you need in your chosen field. Again, sector insights for local and global, and information on employer markets and sort of what does the recruitment process actually look like, what kind of skills you need. And then also the career networking opportunity to meet potential employers and engage in a lot of different chances to sort of speak to them face to face. Well, at the moment it's all virtual, but at some point we'll obviously come back to normal, where you may get a chance to actually speak to them and state your case forward, I guess. Just to give you an idea, it's a pretty well-resourced employee engagement team. So part of the Career Centre has the employee engagement team with it, and most of us, so the heads of the sectors and some of the sector leads, have got a dual role. On one hand, we speak to all the companies or our partners to make sure that they do come to the campus with the opportunities, or at least they post and they engage with the students, and also for us to understand what the market looks like and what sort of skills they're looking for. And then we also have a team of relationship managers who kind of behind the scenes work tirelessly to bring those companies to campus. And also we do the coaching, the one-to-one with the students. So it's sort of a two-hat job where you work outside and also internally as well. For the diversified team, and we'll touch on what diversified actually means within LBS. I'm Alyona, so I've got about 20 odd years in the industry. I started my career with Unilever on the graduate scheme, so I know what it's like to go through the assessment centres and recruitment. I then worked across various FMCGs, retail and luxury, and just before I arrived at LBS, I was with LVMH. So I have got an idea of what it's like to recruit people, to go through the process, to obviously change careers as well. And I have two lovely ladies working as relationship managers in my team, Kiara and Monique, who we split the sectors between us. So I look after FMCG, retail and luxury specifically, and social impact. And then Kiara and Monique take up the rest of the diversified sectors and work directly with the recruiters to bring you those opportunities. So what do we mean by diversified sectors? The easiest way to look at it is basically it's everything that is not tech, consulting, or finance. So everything else pretty much falls into that, where it's a myriad of different things, anything from energy to FMCG and social impact. And we provide, or I provide, the student coaching and the sector advice. Bear in mind that some of the potential job givers will span various sectors. So, for example, Rolls-Royce would be sitting in industrial, in automotive, and in luxury all at the same time. So today we'll obviously be talking about social impact. And within that, we will look at, normally if you come to the coaching sessions, we'll look at sector overviews in terms of regional and global insights, what's happening with the market. I would do the career coaching and one-to-one. This is after you've seen the coaches and you perhaps already identified which sector specifically you want to go after. You have at least a fair good draft of a cover letter and a CV, and that's been checked several times before you come to start honing this and tailoring it to each potential employer to give you a better chance of getting through those rounds of interviews. And then we also look at the networking opportunities where, again, it could be anything from recruitment directly on campus to speaker series and panels with alumni where you get a chance to ask questions about specific companies and specific types of roles. So how does the recruitment actually work? You've got structured programs, you've got direct hire. Now, in pretty much all the diversified sectors, you will have a bit of both and a mix. Structured programs, they provide a framework to build future leaders that generally don't require specific background. They like to take generalists and then train them up into specific type of roles. Obviously, if you do have a relevant background, it does help, but it tends to sort of maximize the existing transferable skills that you have. You tend to go for rotations across different functions, geographies. There is normally a support network with mentors and training programs and sort of team activities as they try to bond the intake of the candidates that come in the same sort of structured program. Those tend to be advertised from October to March. Generally, it's sort of front facing in the autumn term for all these structured things. So specifically pay attention when you come, if you're applying outside of Europe and UK, because the timelines could differ. So Asia tends to be a little bit later, US tends to be earlier. So you might need to keep an eye on those if you're interested. And then direct hire is obviously all year round. Majority of positions within diversified and specifically in social impact will be through direct hire and word of mouth. It's advertised potentially on open market, including, I don't know, LinkedIn and other boards. So it's not going to just land on your lap in terms of a job offer coming. You sort of have to look for those. They will have a specific remit or function. Sometimes candidates prefer those because you have a really clear idea of what you're going to be doing. You can make impact from day one. The remuneration is perhaps a little bit higher than a structured program because you're paid to do a job. And again, those are good if you're looking for those, like for recruitment evenings. Career Central will have some of the post job boards. Networking is going to be key. So making sure that you keep in touch with your existing network and build one when you arrive as well, specifically within your class, but also with alumni. Those kind of roles, you don't even need to look at until you're about 2 to 4 months before your graduation, because you're not available for full-time hire until then. So you know, even if your ideal job comes up, you're not ready. So we, you know, obviously we can talk about that when you come. And then in terms of social impact, so social impact is now a bit of a buzzword, where before it was sort of sitting in a specific sector. Now pretty much every organization is looking at how it can add impact, whether it's with its own employees, whether it's through corporate social responsibility outside. It's looking at its, you know, carbon footprint and all sorts of other things. So all of those things now fall into, I guess, the social impact sector, and it's now sort of driven by the mindset change of both kind of the clients of organization, but also the employees of, you know, the business wanting to do good in some way when they're in a place of work. So when I look at kind of all the diversified sectors, actually social impact is in the middle of all of it, because we, you know, we cover a myriad of companies. Every single industry within that will have an element of social impact, and there are quite a lot of links between them. So when you look at you know, pure social impact, like, I don't know, Clinton Health, you know, Access, and they would work directly with healthcare companies because they will be bringing the vaccines to the countries that they work in. So you could look at those opportunities across a, you know, a different field. And also, just one thing to bear in mind is if you want to work in impact investing specifically, this is something that would sit within the finance sector, because again, a lot of the finance institutions will have that impact investing arm to it outside of just purely impact investing companies. So I won't be covering that because obviously that sits with finance, but it's something to bear in mind if you're looking for impact investing. You can investigate the finance side as well. So social impact impacts everything. I guess then the question becomes is, okay, so if I want to work in social impact, where do I actually want to go? What do I want to do? And this is where needs to be a bit of soul searching, and also looking at the skills that you already possess, because within the different arms of social impact, there are myriads of organizations that you can get involved in. So you need to get a bit of clarity on what is it that you're genuinely interested in. One thing about social impact, every role you're going to apply for, I think, will require you to have some sort of passion for the industry and the sector. But it's even more so within this sector. They will want to read your letter of intent and understand what is it that's driving you to that particular cause that's asking you to apply. So you need to have some sort of passion and desire to be involved in a specific organization, you know, whether it's about animals or health or human rights. Then you can start picking the organizations that operate in that space to then narrow down your search. Otherwise, you can see how vast it is. You could be there forever trying to understand, okay, well, if I want a job in social impact, what can I do? Now, the second thing you need to think about is, okay, what do I actually want out of the role? Because, you know, there's a big scale between sort of pure profit and pure philanthropy, and social impact sort of sits along that scale. So you could decide, you know what, actually, I would like to work for you know, a corporate organization that just has an arm that looks at, you know, its sustainability, and maybe you'll be somebody like, I don't know, Unilever, where it's still a kind of a normal type of corporate role, but you will have specific criteria to then allow that social impact to come into play. Or then you go into completely donation-based businesses, non-profits, something that's supported by fundraising and donations. So again, it's a sort of a second layer where you need to decide whether, I guess, you know, the money is the main driver or the cause is the main driver, and then decide, you know, what what organizations you're going to put into your bucket list to be basically contacting and trying to get a role. And then within that, what kind of roles could you have? Again, consultants and anyone coming from a consulting background, your profiles are of interest to quite a lot of the social impact firms because they like that generalist mindset, the problem solving mindset. So it opens up a lot of different opportunities. Strategists, obviously marketing analysts, finance, all of those roles are relevant. Again, the key thing will be, what is my passion? Is it not for profit? Is it for profit? And then you start deciding, okay, so what transferable skills do I actually have to add into my application to make myself stand out? Hopefully all of that makes sense. It's quite complicated. Once you're here, we can dissect everything and work through what exactly it is that interests you. Just a few of the headlines to highlight a lot of different things are going on in the sector. Obviously, digital is now becoming a key aspect where perhaps in the past, when you think about traditionally social impact, it hasn't really been driven by the whole technical sort of investment and innovation. Now it's becoming a key skill. So if you are interested in digital and tech and also social impact, is a really great time to get involved because they're looking for data transformation. They're looking for ways of bringing their patrons and sort of the charities together. Quite a lot of collaborations going on with organizations sort of taking active part in foundations and adopting some of the charities themselves. And also, big corporates who, I don't know, for example, like Ricky McKizer, who, produce chemicals, then trying to partner up with developing markets to bring some of their products, into an environment and help along the way. So plenty of things to choose from. The kind of skills they're looking for, well, I guess it's a combination of everything. The key ones will be your soft skills. So again, this is what's your story? Demonstrating so EQ is really important. Interpersonal skills, teamwork, leadership, maturity, having that cultural awareness and ability to work with people across the world and also, different socioeconomic backgrounds as well, especially with a lot of the foundations and some of the international development organizations. You will potentially be in roles that are kind of on the ground, and having to be able to speak with all walks of life would be of a lot of benefit. Leadership roles. So what have you done since your undergrad degree? Have you been involved in volunteering? Have you done any fundraising? Have you been involved in clubs? Again, once you're at LBS, have you joined relevant clubs and maybe the Exco to show that you generally have passion for these causes? Having global mobility is a must. Again, within social impact, especially with a large international development, visas don't really come into play. They do like you to apply specifically for some of the countries, but it is a bit of an easier transition because they are working internationally. And then any of your interesting hobbies, running marathons, swimming the channel, anything to do with fundraising. For one, it shows serious commitment, and two, you might actually it's a good conversation starter, and they'll remember you in an interview for something that you've done that's quite impactful. And then from a technical side, negotiation skills, language requirements, especially any uncommon languages are usually really valued in those organizations. Digital and tech skills, and then anything specific to a role. If it's, if you're going for a finance role, obviously having a background in finance would help. Having pre-LBS experience is a plus, but also anything that's kind of transferable and technical does help. And then passion and knowledge for the sector that you can demonstrate within your application and within the interview. So when it comes to internships, obviously these are just a few organizations that we've had interns going into. Primarily it's for MBAs, but there have been some early career students that have decided to take internships for maybe longer periods, for 6 months to 12 months in some of these organizations, just to build a network. And then perhaps if you don't have those skills, the on the ground, the kind of the hardship skills to show, it might be worth considering taking a bit of time out just to get that onto your CV, because then applications to somewhere like UN might be much, much better received. Obviously, it's incredibly competitive, so you need to show that. Also, just wanted to flag up Wheeler Institute for Business Development. This is something, so they are part of the school, but also work independently. And Tony Wheeler, who obviously started Lonely Planet, and his wife have donated significant amount of money for the Research Institute. And the Wheeler Institute conducts research in partnership with a lot of very large scale organizations. And what they look at is obviously research itself, you know, in terms of socioeconomic and social enterprise. They also provide frameworks for introducing business practices and also kind of shaping business education to make the leaders of the companies become kind of long-term future agents of positive change going forward. And they work with us very, very closely. So over the last few years, we've had a lot of interns. I think it's up to, I don't know, 20 in 1 year, and some of them are for the summer, but also quite a lot ad hoc throughout the year where they can get involved with projects with Wheeler as well. Those actually will be posted on Career Central, so you know, you'll see them coming up. Just to give you kind of an idea of what happened last year, albeit, you know, bear in mind that everything was done remotely. In a lot of cases in the previous year, students have traveled to some of the countries where the projects were supposed to be taking place. We weren't that lucky in the summer, but you can see there are quite a few different opportunities. You know, UNICEF and Gates Foundation and also the Wheeler Institute took quite a few last year. We had, I think, one student working on a project on Zambia with Wheeler, a few on Kenya, and kind of, you know, just sort of around geographies. But they were predominantly based in UK, working remotely. So that's kind of how the landscape sits at the moment. Also, if you think, okay, I would really love to do something within social impact, but perhaps, you know, it's financially prohibitive, there are a couple of things that you can get involved in once you're at the school. You have to be you know, a full-time MBA. So these are specifically for MBAs because obviously they're the ones that tend to take on the summer internship for 3 months. And if you get involved in a project and it's unpaid, or you know, there is a minimum stipend or something like that, then there are a couple of awards you can apply for, stating your cause, and then it'll be reviewed. Those are, and this is something to bear in mind for I guess for the future. Generally, those things are set up by alumni who are coming out and wanting to leave a legacy. So the MSc 11 award was set up by a class, or well, it's an MBA, but it used to be known as the MSc, and they wanted students to get involved in social impact. So they've left behind a fund that obviously has been managed every year to allow 1 or 2 students to work for a cause that they really enjoy without having to worry about the payment. So hopefully when you're all alumni, you will consider contributing back to the school as well. And then for full-time roles, again, it's very difficult to give data because out of the huge MBA classes that we get, only a few students ever go into that area full-time, but we have had students obviously joining all these organizations at some point in the last few years. So anything from Dalberg Advisors to CDC and Bridges, obviously within the impact investing space, and then the Red Cross and OECD, again, different roles. So associates, consultants, analysts, it's all there for taking. Just over the last couple of years, again, we've had an MBA going into Red Cross and Cancer Research, UNDP. We also had a few early career students. So last year, somebody joined 60 Decibels and also the Ocean Bottle. If you want to do a bit more research in terms of you know, careers or opportunities, or at least have a look at the type of jobs that might come up within the area, if it's not something you've considered closely, there are a few sites you can have a look at, and also, you know, just a few different resources. So obviously all these slides I think will be available for you to have a look, but just you know, just to give you an idea of things that you can research on your own. And bear in mind, there's a little bit of a secret job market. The best jobs within social impact are done through networking and being part of that network, because somebody somewhere will know someone who has an amazing background that will be great for that job. So the more networked you are, the more clued up you are about all the different things that are going on in that market, the easier it's going to be for you to be that person at the right place at the right time to jump on that job offer. And just I obviously don't need to take down the names, but just to give you an idea. So once you are looking into that sector, obviously in finance, you have coaches to help you, but also on the other side, you've got me to have the one-to-one sector coaches. We have an executive coach who works on kind of international development a lot with the UN organizations. We will have club presidents that can help you. We also have a lot of peer leaders every year who, again, either come from the industry or worked within the industry on summer projects and can give you, tangible advice on what are my interviewing skills? Does my cover letter look good? Can I genuinely give an idea of my passion for that cause? So make sure you do use those resources. They're all there for you. So kind of in summary, stay driven by your motivations if you're interested in that sector. It's so easy when you arrive at the school to be swayed by the peer pressure of getting involved in a lot of recruitment rounds for maybe organizations that you don't particularly have an interest in, but everyone else is doing it. So, you kind of just get involved, and then that takes time and effort from you building your network and actually putting time into proper applications. You need to demonstrate your skills and also your own impact. What have you done in your life up to this point to then tangibly sell yourself into that particular organization? Stay positive. Recruitment is pretty brutal when you start getting into it, and it does get a little bit, I guess, depressing at sometimes. But in the end, all you need is one job, and that one job will be there for you. And you just need to keep that kind of the FOMO at bay, because you'll hear, and also one thing to bear in mind as well is the timelines, because social impact recruits throughout the year, but it tends to be a lot later than perhaps banking or consulting. So when you have your peers walking around with job offers from consulting firms, it's very easy to start thinking, oh well, what's happening with me, and why haven't I got something yet? So just keep a perspective on what is it that you're looking for, and your journey is completely different to theirs. So stay mindful of the sector. Remember what motivates the recruiters as well within that sector. Work with the career center. I'm sure there are students that arrive at the school and they go for their 1 year or 2 years, and we never actually see them, and they're very successful at what they do, but we're there to help you. So make sure that you understand all the different resources that are available to you. There are the pages and pages of different things to help you to get through the interviews and understand companies and do a bit of research. There are people to help you with practice, and the no limits on how many times you can see someone, and if you're still unsure, to go and ask for help. So use those resources to build your skills. And can't stress that enough. Build your network. That is going to be absolutely critical, especially within social impact, but in pretty much any role that you're looking to get into, your network is going to be critical in in application, because just that one recommendation that lands on somebody's desk in HR is worth its weight in gold, rather than just a cold application from LinkedIn or anywhere else. And that's it for me. And obviously I'm here for questions later as well. I'm going to hand over to our brilliant social impact club so they can talk about all the things that they do as well.
Thank you so much, Alyona. So on the next slide, we'll talk through essentially the kind of core drivers of the student experience at LBS from the social impact lens. So we truly are a club that is, inclusive across the board. We are 600 strong. We tackle every single different kind of program at LBS, and it is one of the reasons why I have thoroughly enjoyed my experience, and it actually was a primary driver for me coming to LBS. So as the president, I'm just honored to obviously be speaking with you guys and share my excitement. So how we've kind of divided this is there's three main, priorities that we want to focus on from a club. We have the academics, which is thinking through how are we actually ingraining, some of the topics from, throughout the course that have a social impact lens. And so we actually have some dedicated individuals on our social impact club team who are working with different individuals within, the LBS faculty to think through about different ways we can start incorporating social impact content throughout the curriculum. Career standpoint, Alyona touched on that a lot. I think the only thing I would add is a lot of us are actually working in internships or jobs that may not be so clearly defined, to her point, as social impact, but what we're doing is inherently what I would define as, impacting the greater good. So for example, I took an internship doing what is labeled the tech for good space. And I applied all the kind of things that Alyona said in terms of networking, figuring out, different kind of interests of mine, talking a lot with my peers. And so the career opportunities, while, they aren't as abundant as you would say in consulting, she's completely right. Like, if you are driven and you want to do something in a social impact space, it is definitely out there for you. And LBS has a great community to kind of help you and facilitate that, that career journey. And then in terms of extracurriculars, that is the primary focus of our club, is delivering amazing events and leaders coming to our campus virtually this year, but it used to be obviously in person, and making sure that people are exposed to what is social impact from a variety of lenses. And so on the next slide, I'll kind of dive through specifically within the next slide, Alyona, sorry. Yeah, perfect. So what I'll kind of give a brief overview of our club structure, and then I'll dive into our vision and mission. So Kavya knows very well, we are a big exco. So we have 60 people supporting over 600 people. And the way we've done that this year is really focusing on sectors. So this is going through the tech for good space, the impact investing space, which I saw some questions on, corporate sustainability, and then also, the nonprofits, NGOs, and kind of public sector. So really giving that flavor of social impact throughout the variety of different industries. So our vision is truly that. It's just to make sure that we're providing the opportunity for people to feel challenged, inspired, mobilized to be the leaders for the next generation, and make sure that we are carrying forth, this, greater impact on humanity as we leave our experience at LBS. Primarily, we are driven a lot by our students and alumni in terms of interest. And then we have a lot of employers and partners that we work with that we are continually, cultivating relationships with. Specifically, to Aliona's point, Wheeler is one of our amazing stakeholders, and they do provide so many opportunities throughout the year to engage in specifically social impact, career opportunities. And so they have been such an excellent employer for us. And then we have a plethora of other individuals that we work with and throughout the year. And then in terms of our strategy, we have 3 primary pillars. It's also personal and professional development. This is obviously giving people who maybe not going into the space that feeling that they can develop themselves in a personal and professional way. So bring it into the workplace if it's not a specific social impact space. Kind of key skills that we're cultivating in the club. Community, that's my kind of primary focus, is especially with how detached we are from each other. It's kind of creating that space where we can really discuss important topics. We can feel supported by our peers. We are able to just engage in different conversations. And so that's been something that we've really tried to focus on this year, even, given everything that's happened. And then school advocacy, this is the point I made about earlier in terms of curriculum. It's like really driving home some content that's going to be incorporated within the curriculum as we proceed to go forward. Small steps, but I think it is something that obviously is a priority to a lot of people. So we want to make sure that's being represented accordingly when we're, reviewing cases and so forth within the classroom. So next slide. And then here's just a bit of some highlights in terms of what specifically tangible things do we offer. So Social Impact Week, which for us is March 8th and 9th this year. We're so excited. So this is a team I loved last year. Fantastic experience. We had 200 plus attendees just for a one evening conference. We had a representative from Fair Trade, from 3 Tech for Good spaces. Levi was also as a representative. And so this year we're having kind of a similar track, except instead of one night, it is a 2-day big conference. And so we'll make sure also to share that link, because it is available for students outside of LBS. And we would absolutely love for you guys to come. So I'll make sure to get that information to Charlotte, and she can share it with you guys. It has been one of those things where I think a lot of students say that this was the highlight of their experience before LBS to convince them to come to our school. So I want to make sure that you guys kind of share in that experience. Mint and SIFs, I think this is one of the key interests for a lot of individuals. Impact investing space is hot. People really want to get into it. And so the Mint and SIF allows you to engage in that experience throughout your entire year. It is a phenomenal competition. It is super rigorous. You actually do get funding if you make it to the end, kind of the end round. so that you can kind of pick a company and then ultimately help them with a funding raise. So this is a fantastic thing that we offer, and it's one of, you know, people's favorite parts about the social impact community. The social impact pillars, sectors, this is what I spoke about before. This is us trying to meet every single person's need. Not everybody wants to just work for, you know, an NGO or Bill and Melinda Gates, but they want to actually be like, hey, how do I go into Starbucks and have a better idea at what is their sustainable practices? So we try to do that through Tech for Good, corporate sustainability, impact investing, like I highlighted, and then the NGOs, public and nonprofit. And then career development, Alyona's talked about this enough in, you know, an extent, but it is plethora of opportunities throughout the year to improve yourself from a career standpoint. And yeah, I think this is, obviously you can tell I'm energized. It is one of the reasons why I got so excited to come to LBS. It validated, I made so many good relationships. I cannot speak more highly of the experience myself. And then on that note, I will now let Kavya, who is a Master of Management. This is her first year. She is a stellar attribute to our team. And I will let you take it away, Kavya.
Thanks, Colleen. So before I joined LBS, my social impact kind of experience was predominantly raising money for various charities. And as Colleen mentioned, like one of the reasons I wanted to join LBS was actually the Social Impact Club. Like I kind of wrote about it in my essays, and I was very excited to join the club. So the reason for joining the club is because I wanted to meet people within the LBS social impact space and also kind of externally. And I applied to be part of the communications team, and I joined the club last October. And as a part of the communications team, I kind of manage the Instagram and the LinkedIn, and I also send out newsletters. And this is basically where I gather information from all of our pillar leads about our incredible events and also career opportunities. That's all kind of packed in the newsletter. So I've really enjoyed my time at the club because I've been able to like talk to different kind of pillars and talk to quite a few people within the social impact space. And I've just really enjoyed my time, and I really don't want it to end. It's such an incredible club to be a part of. And as Colleen mentioned, Social Impact Week is coming up soon. So I'm kind of on that team as well. And this has been another extraordinary experience for me because I've been able to meet more people, trying to highlight this event, and I just had a lot of fun. So I would really recommend joining this club if you come to LBS. Thank you.
Great, thank you everybody. Alyona, Colleen, Kavya, thank you so much for all of your insights and sharing your experiences so far in terms of social impact at London Business School. I'm sure that's really exciting for the admits and prospective students we have on the call to hear more, and also probably a little bit of application advice there as well, Kavya, in terms of what to include in your essays. So thank you for that. Okay, so we have lots of questions here. So we've got about 20 minutes to get through. So we have some questions that have actually been sort of voted. So we can pretty much start at the top with the most popular questions. One of them that I actually noticed was whether early careers such as MIM students could get involved in the executive committee. So I think you just answered that with a yes. So that's great to, for those interested in those programs to know. Okay, so Alec has asked, does LBS have connections to large social impact arms such as the World Bank, IFC or UN? So Alyona, maybe you can take that one for us.
Yes to all of them. So obviously UN is a bit of a, it's a bit of a behemoth. So we do have connections, excuse me, to some of the organizations. Oh, I'm losing my voice. Apologies. So with the finance institutions, yes, we work with them through the finance team. And I don't know what's going on. I'm going all froggy. So that's going through the finance team. So that will be normal recruitment process. A lot of them do have structured recruitment. So once you arrive, the finance team will talk you through how you can get into internships or full-time roles. With UN is a bit of a funny one. So they all recruit individually for each individual sections. None of the sections talk to each other. So just because you fill in an application form for UNDP, for example, no one in WHO is going to see it. So you need to apply individually to each one. obviously writing a letter of intent and spending good 2-3 hours on each individual letter. But we do have connections. So we have, International Organization for Migration, we have UN volunteers, we have UNDP. They all kind of work with the school, and there are chances. And the reason why I'm sort of pinpointing those three is because it's probably the easiest way to get into UN if you have no prior UN experience. So I tend to be a little bit more flexible for different types of backgrounds, and it's probably one of the youngest members of the UN umbrella, so they tend to kind of prefer just going after the right profiles rather than just sticking to kind of the tried and tested. And then the other two give you that opportunity, if you don't have the right impact on your CV, to just either with the volunteers to join for like a 6 or 12-month project, which then gives you your ticket straight into UN, or with the development program. Once you're in those, it's kind of like, it says, yes, okay, it's a fixed contract, but it tends to be rolling then into one of the UN organizations, because you will be attached to one of those as part of those programs. So that's probably the easiest way to get in if you haven't got any links straight into UN. Yeah, I guess hopefully that answers the question.
Perfect, thank you. Colleen, there are a few questions about impact consulting actually, but one is whether or how closely social impact and impact consulting clubs work together.
Great question, and I'd say very closely. So I actually think we're doing, Kavya, you can actually speak to this most. I think actually we're doing, or we have done an event with them. I mean, you're the one writing up all the, all of our wonderful things happening. We've done it within the past. We obviously exchange different communication. So if they have something going on, we share via our channel and vice versa. And then I think there was a question around like the whole Dahlberg, where does that sit? And I think that's one of those where it sits everywhere. We've had Dahlberg come to our campus before on behalf of the Social Impact Clubs, co-sponsored by the Impact Consulting. So like, it's one of those things where Dahlberg will be maybe present in both places. So I wouldn't, be worried if it gets lost in the shuffle.
Dahlberg's actually, Colleen, sorry to jump in, but Dahlberg's one of mine is with Diversified, and they do structured recruitment. So they will come in autumn and they will recruit for open positions for full-time. They will also recruit for summer internships as well at both levels, the kind of the analyst level and the consultant level.
Perfect. Sorry. Yeah. We just collab with the Impact Consulting Club with Dahlberg, usually as a co-sponsor event. But yeah, so hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. I did see one other question about consulting from Daniel Alyona, who asked, what is the most logical and realistic path to get into social impact consulting inside major consulting firms? And this might be for the consulting for next week. They're asking, conscious of the fact that usually you get into the firm as a generalist.
And again, I guess, yes, you're right. It would be a really good question for Dan, I think, for consulting team next time. But for Dahlberg, for sure, they like ex-consulting profiles. So if you do come from a consulting background, you will have a better chance of getting into that straight into a consulting role. If you want to go after the big consulting firms, speak to obviously the consulting team, but my understanding is that some of them are a bit more open than others for you to try and position yourself into kind of a sector, and you can specify. Somebody like McKinsey won't be. So if you're going into somewhere like that, you will be placed where they think they need you. Some of the other ones will be more open to you actually asking for projects that do have impact at the heart of them. So again, it's just a choice of which culture, which organization is right for me.
Great, thank you. And then it would be nice to get all of your perspectives on this question from Eric, who asks, how does one build a network at LBS to get to the secret jobs? Is the network generally built through the Social Impact Club and its events, or are there any other networking events and opportunities with social impact organisations through LBS? If there's no COVID, fingers crossed. I like that bit of the question. So Alyona, maybe your thoughts on that first, and then if we could get the students' thoughts as well, that'd be really useful.
So for me, there are quite a few different ways. First one, obviously, have a look at your own network and see if there's anyone, a second or third connection to the people that you're, or the jobs that you're interested in with our organization. Then you will have your classmates, and some of them would have come from the social impact background, but don't necessarily want to go back into it, but they will be, a wealth of contacts for you to jump into it. Then you have obviously the club and all the club events for networking and sort of jumping in, and you can obviously take part in that and build your connections through that. And then the other bit that's not to be kind of dismissed is the directory. So the LBS, a directory of alumni who are all happy to speak to the students and share their experience. And again, if they are happy to share their details, there's a kind of a big database that you can mine for the type of roles. Much easier to reach out to alumni and start having that conversation about their career path and what it's really like to work in that organization. Rather than just sort of contacting somebody cold on LinkedIn. I mean, it has worked in the past, but you'll just have a better chance of contacting them. And also think about, when you're contacting people, what is it that you've got in common with them? You might have a similar background. Maybe you come from the same undergrad. Maybe you, interned in the same type of company. Maybe you have languages or nationality in common. Have that point of contact that you can actually touch on, so you start building that rapport straight away, and you have a reason to actually speak to them, saying, hey, I've noticed you're an alumni of the school and you come from wherever, or you did this, I'm really interested in. And that's how you kind of start the conversation in the first place.
Thanks, Alyona. Maybe Kavya or Colleen, if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically kind of echoing what Alyona said. Like, people are very kind of helpful over LinkedIn, and the Career Centre obviously helps a lot. And you don't just have to be part of Exco, part of the Social Impact Exco. You can just reach out to anyone you think will be helpful within the social impact space. We also do have a careers pillar within our Exco, and they are super helpful, and they kind of post out careers, like job postings, every 2 weeks. Via our newsletter, so they're really on it, actually. So yeah.
Yeah, I have nothing else to add. I think you guys covered it all.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, Alyona, another question for you. You mentioned that a lot of students join the MBA or other programs with the hope of building a career in social impact, but then can change their minds along the way, and they're just asking why that is. Whether it's due to change in interest during the MBA or a difficult recruiting environment?
It's a variety of reasons, I guess. There are some, I guess, different points within the full-time roles. So if you're comparing potentially a role in social impact versus a role in consulting or banking, some of the times the salary itself could be a bit of an issue, and the student prefers to just go off and do something else within that. Some of the times it's just the lack of the opportunity, because a lot of it is direct hire. So if they potentially don't have the type of role that comes up when they're ready to go into that field, then they could take something else. The visa generally, it's not a massive issue if it's one of the large organizations, but I guess for some of the smaller ones could be a bit of a problem, because they won't sponsor at a certain levels within the roles. But again, it depends on which organization you work for. If you're going to work for ICRC, the Red Cross and Red Crescent, then you basically have a diplomatic pass, so they really don't care. They will send you, but you need to have the right set of criteria. I think by nature, it's a very small proportion of the class. It's probably about not even like 1% that actually wants to go into those roles full time. What I'm seeing a lot of are students that are coming in with backgrounds in consulting or banking or something like that, and they do still want to stay within the corporate. So this is where, do you remember that sliding scale where they decide, look, I actually want to have an element of my role that's within the social impact, but I'm not really interested in sort of just for profit. So we do have quite a large proportion of students going into impact investing, but I'm not recording that because it sits with the finance team. So within the finance, so we do have students that go into EBRD or IFC or CDC, and it has happened. It's not going to be in my data because it's not diversified. So within diversified specifically, it's a small percentage of students and it's quite a small number of jobs. So I think the ones who desperately want them do get them, but it's, you know, it's just the nature of kind of the market itself.
Great, thanks, Alyona. And I should just mention there as well, in terms of visas in the UK, it's worth noting for prospective students that there has been some change to visa regulations, which means that from this year, all graduates will automatically have a 2-year graduate visa in the UK and will not require sponsorship for at least 2 years to remain in the UK. So that's good to know knowledge. A question from Charlotte, and again, this might be one for the entrepreneurship version of the series, who asked, do you have programs to help support students who are interested in developing their own social enterprise?
Yeah, so I think this is, you're right, this is probably more towards the entrepreneurship session, but yes, of course, you know, LBS, it's a very flexible place. Like, if you know what you want to do, there's certainly people and kind of facilities to help you achieve that. So you can join. So first of all, of course, there are different sort of options to join the entrepreneurship club and then the institute and work on that. And I think there's a competition as well to get funding from the school for your idea and working in teams. There are also a lot of different projects you get involved in. So you can get involved in startups as well, where students are working on the social enterprises and they're getting involved and sort of getting something off the ground. I think if you're very clear about what it is that you want to do, then there is going to be somebody that can help you and guide you in the right direction to get the resources and the help that you need to get it off the ground.
Great, thank you. And yes, we did meet with entrepreneurship a few months ago, so there is a session on the website for Charlotte, who asked that question, to find out more about those opportunities as well. Okay, so over to the club. Colleen, Alyssa has asked more about how the various pillars for the club were chosen or adjusted year to year, and curious to hear more about how the current 5 were formulated, whether it's based on student interest for the year voted on, or just how they are decided, please.
Great question. So yes, it was a combination of student interest and then also, I would say, leader interest. So we're very much a club that's focused around building a strong community, which I think should be driven by the people who are both running it and then also the people that you're servicing. And so we did a poll at the end of last year, figuring out what were like the main levers or the main industries that people want to focus on through a social impact lens. Those are the 4 that came up. And then we just found individuals who were really passionate about it. Some of them have, adjusted over time, but for the most part, those are the 4. And then every year it's very different. So to be fair, the year before that, we were not sector-based. We were much more event-based as well. So I can't guarantee that when you enter LBS next year, this will be the case. But I think it actually has worked out pretty well this year, and that has been the general feedback from most of our community members. So I'm pretty optimistic it will keep. But it may change, the pillars may change, right? So to your point, if students are expressing an interest in a completely different field that we aren't addressing, point blank, I think we will obviously do our best to address that.
Thanks, Paulina. And just sticking with you, I think your enthusiasm for the club has shone. Lots of people asking, can I join the club? Can I join the club? So the answer is yes.
Everyone can join the club. Yeah.
But there were some questions about how the Exco are selected. So maybe you could just go into that in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, of course. So we open applications to every student across programs. I actually think we did a good job this year, or we tried to do a good job this year at including every different program because we thought that was the best way to build diversity. That's why Kavya, has done such an excellent job and is encouraging us to continue to do this. But it is a submission at the beginning of the year. You have an application. It's super, straightforward questions. You pick a team that you want to work for. So we'll give a presentation. You find the role that suits you best, and then you go through 1 or 2 rounds of interviews. And then it's up to, the individual leads who they want to pick for their, their team. So we gave our leads responsibility for picking, the people that they felt were, the best fit. But yeah, it's very straightforward. We welcome applications from everybody. And you'll see when you get in next year, there's about, I don't know, how many probably 50 different clubs who are throwing these events and are trying to recruit Exco members. So there's no shortage of roles. But I do think, to be fair, your year is very dictated by the role you pick. And so this is just like a outside of social impact club advice, like be very specific with what interests you the most. Don't do something because you are like, oh, I need to fill my time with something. Like, you should be very specific. Your time is valuable as an MBA student. You don't have that much of it, and it's not worth doing things that you don't want to do. And so I think you really should, explore the spaces that you want to, upskill or kind of, do something a bit different. But yes, there's a lot of opportunities in the fall.
Can I just add on top of the kind of your time at LBS as well? One of the other thing is that you never really leave, because we do have a very, very active alumni community. Mm-hmm. And through, once you get through LBS, obviously a lot of the clubs, their membership is lifetime. So even though you've left the school, you still have access to a lot of the networking events and a lot of the opportunities that the clubs provide. And obviously, hopefully, you're still there for the students to reach out to you and have a conversation with. So that engagement is still there. And we do have, again, a very well-resourced alumni support team. You still get coaching sessions throughout the year and lots of other different things. So it might be that you start your career and then eventually, as you said, you kind of, a small percentage of students goes into something else, and then you go off and you do something else for a few years, and then you decide, okay, I'm ready. I want to go back into social impact. There is still an opportunity for you to then tap into that network and be connected with it and stay connected with it after you leave LBS, to then have that transition if you want to have it later on as well.
I think that's a really good space to stop, actually, on that note, in terms of involvement with the club and in the social impact space. So I'd like to thank all of you for joining me today. Alyona, thank you for all of your insights, and we'll see you again, not next week, but the week after, for the next in the series. Colleen and Kavya, thank you so much for joining and sharing insights on the club and your experiences so far. I think we've definitely managed to excite lots of people who want to be part of the club, so we'll expect members next year. So thanks for joining us. Take care, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing you all again soon at our next session.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.